Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Chelsea Shore-Miller. I serve as the program manager for the Region 10 Opioid Abatement Council, referred to as Gateway to the Rockies Opioid Council, or GROC. Today is our May full council meeting. We have a very efficient agenda today, so we should be getting out early. We're going to start with attendance and quorum. There is a link in the chat for non-voting members and alternates. If the alternate is here as a voting member, don't worry about it. Commissioner Del Kemper.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you virtually.
Commissioner Marlin.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Commissioner Hollingsworth.
I am here, thank you.
Commander Ayton. Or Luke Parr. Heidi McCollum or Stephen Potts. Sheriff Armstrong or Undersheriff Demo. Laura Weinberg or Chris Wolf.
This is Laura, I'm here.
Thank you.
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, thanks.
Yes. I know Janine is going to be out, so Tori Jance or Troy Cooper.
Tori Jance is here.
That gets me every time. It just makes me like laugh a little bit that your names are in different letter orders.
Yeah.
Dr. Story or Michael Miller?
Here.
6. Dr. Ryan or Emily Cooper? Marie Larson or Elisa Witt?
Hi, Maria's here.
Thank you. Mary Berg or Barb Weinstein? Sorry.
It's Barb. Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Sarah Casano or Dr. Gillingham?
Sarah Gillingham here. Thank you.
Thank you. Janie Barker or David Jocelyn?
This is Janie. I am here.
Thank you. Kristen Heath or Judge Cindy Jones?
This is Kristen. I'm here.
Thank you. We are at quorum. All alternates who are also here or not voting members, I will read off your attendance when we do conflicts of interest. First agenda item is to approve the April meeting minute. And I did not link the minutes. I linked PowerPoint slide. That was one of the links I thought I had fixed, Sandy. Go right here.
I have them if you need them, Chelsea. Let me know.
Thanks. I just put them in the chat too.
Are you just waiting for a motion then, Chelsea?
Yes.
I
Always
move
like
to approve the minutes.
I'll second, George.
Thank you. I'll vote by opposition in the chat. I'm not seeing anything. So we have conflicts of interest for today. All Jefferson County voting members have a conflict of interest due to GROC funding for Jefferson County Sheriff's Office and Jefferson County Public Health. Amber Dower is our fiscal contact for GROC and is a Jefferson County employee. All the Clear Creek County voting members have a conflict of interest due to GROC funding for Chat and Mountain Youth Network. Gilpin County voting members have a conflict of interest due to GROC funding for Gilpin County Sheriff's Office and Gilpin County Parks and Rec. Rhiannon Strait is part of the Omni team. Omni also has a presentation today. They received funding for program evaluation and facilitation support. I don't think this is necessarily a conflict because I don't have any voting, but I am asking for funding for professional development today, so that might be a conflict of interest. We have Madeline Jewell from Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. They are a grantee. They do have an agenda item today. Rose Morris from Mountain Youth Network. They are a grantee with an agenda item today. Jessica Parvar, also Parvar, is with Jeffco Sheriff's grantee agenda item today. Jeff Aiken is an alternate for Commissioner Hollingsworth in Gilpin County. I'm not seeing anything else. Sean Reed is with Omni. I think that's everyone. Yeah, cool. Brief finance report. This slide is remaining unchanged, probably until we do some type of next contract. This slide slightly changed from the first packet I sent you. Actually, I don't think this slide did. This one did. I had given one of our groups an extra, chat. I gave them an extra like $10,000. That was a typo on the slide, not in real life. Expense report, chat has expensed $278,787. They have about $800,000 left on their award. Denver Recovery Group has expensed almost $5,000. They have roughly $173,000 left on their award. Lakewood did not respond invoice for quarter 1. They did fill out a hiring incentive form. We're going over that. Nothing looks out of the ordinary, out of our policy. When I get the final form, I will share that with the executive committee. Jeffco Public Health did invoice. It just did not go through by the time we had this PowerPoint slide. So that should be on June. Jeffco Sheriffs has not started their contract yet. That's an agenda item later today. Recovery Works has expensed roughly $21,000, leaving almost $550,000 left on their award. Monarch was upfront purchase. Advocates for Recovery has invoiced $484,000. They have roughly $147,000 left on the award. Resilience 1220 has invoiced $64,000. They have roughly $321,000 left on the award. Mountain Youth Network has a budget amendment pending for today. Gilpin County Parks and Rec expensed almost $143,000, leaving roughly $42,000 left on their award. This slide, EUNA has not changed. Program Management and Facilitation has expensed $156,000, leaving $168,000 left in the bucket. Omni for Evaluation has expensed $31,000, leaving almost $89,000 left in the award. The emergency fund has been moved into our accrued interest, but we will not have anything coming out of that until roughly 2028. Settlement conference, that is unchanged. Fiscal agent admin, that is unchanged. Any questions on expense reporting for last month? Perfect. Great news from the COAG, the Colorado Opioid Abatement Council. That is the state share. They have awarded $11 million for opioid treatment and recovery in their infrastructure share. If you click that link in your meeting packet, it does open up to their landing page. Maybe. I swear I'm getting better at Adobe. If folks wanted to look at what they have awarded, I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat and I will get these links updated. So they have 4 recovery and recovery housing projects. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 treatment projects. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 youth prevention and family prevention projects. 2 harm reduction projects. 3 crisis response and justice system partnerships. And 3 statewide systems and capacity building. This is, I think, what impacts us the most, being the University of Colorado Anschutz Grant Writing Assistance Program. So this is for smaller organizations, and it helps them with grant writing applications for all of the ROAC. And then the statewide evaluation infrastructure and statewide data learning system. This is where we will be inputting our impact metrics to see where we stand in the state in terms of impact. I think these are all really good awards. There were 4 tentative awards, meaning, for example, the Denver ROAC had to provide a match for them to get their infrastructure awards. So those 4 matching awards are still pending to be announced. So lots going on there. The Purdue Sackler settlement is also set to close for $7.4 billion nationwide. That should put Region 10 allocations at $50 million over the 18-year period. That does not include if any local governments decide to opt their share into the local share. So I'm anticipating a little over 50 million for the 18 years, which is great for us. General updates on contracting progress. AFRC, we've just finished their, Amber didn't want to call them audits. What did you want to call them, Amber?
Internal document review.
Yes. And I'm actually going to backpedal because I see Commissioner Marlin's hand.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something. Do all of the jurisdictions have another decision to make about whether to contribute what from these new settlements into the pool, or is that like the standing decision that we made hold for everything?
I think I might defer to Rhiannon. Do you know? I know people already signed their papers.
So I am, gosh, what percentage am I going to give? I'm like 80% certain that you will have to update your opt-in, opt-out decision, because this is a new settlement, even though we've like been talking and looking at the Sackler settlement every time. Similar to a couple of the like strange one-offs that we got emails from in the last year. My guess is that every municipality will get another email like this one about the Purdue Sackler settlement and then specifically have to make their decision. Not 100% positive, but like pretty confident that it'll be the same.
That would come through the AG, right? Not through us. The AG will tell us if we have to decide or not.
Correct. It won't come through us, but it'll probably be from Brown Greer, the email that the local municipalities get. So don't keep your eyes peeled for like a COAC email. It's from the National Settlement Administrator.
And I have a meeting with the state on Thursday. I can ask for clarity around that. And even if you did opt to keep it initially, and then you decide in like 6 months that you want to donate it, Amber can help facilitate that to us.
Yep. Yeah.
Chelsea, I'd love to hear what you find out, because our attorney's team, when those have been coming in, they said we don't need to take any action when they've contacted the group, because the ones that opted in don't need to do anything further because they already opted in to share. So yeah, if you find out something different, let us know.
Okay. I will report back.
Dr. Chelsea, can I have just one more minute of the mic while I'm off mute? So the COAC awards from the latest infrastructure round, I just want to really explicitly call out the grant writing assistance program And yes, Omni is also an award recipient, and we will talk about that all day if you would like to. But this grant writing assistance program is such an unbelievably beneficial return on investment for any of the organizations in this room who serve people with behavioral health issues. I have never been a part of a program that had a higher return on investment in terms of how many grants were awarded and how beneficial it was to like blend funding sources. So Dr. Chelsea and GROC here is doing this brilliant effort for aligning strategic planning with all of the local municipalities. This grant writing assistance program, everyone should try for it. It's just such an incredible opportunity with really successful results. And so I like, for people who might not have been in this game for quite as long, it's really exciting that this is coming back. It's an old program. So I just wanted to double down on that and make sure that our community partners fully understood what that was, because it's going to help you all get access to more money that will help this region and the strategic plan goals of this specific region.
And we will link to it once the website is up and functional. We will link to it on our funding page as a resource for folks. So contracting updates, like Amber said, they're not really audits, they're more internal reconciliation because we are transferring fiscal contacts, so people managing the money. Then we're also switching from several different Excel spreadsheets and Monday.com to the Una platform, and then just the transition in itself. We want to make sure that all of our numbers are correct across all platforms. We've also been working since October on restructuring Workday in Jefferson County to match what our budget really looks like. So again, just making sure all of our numbers are aligned. We just finished AFRC. Their unit budget will be updated by the end of the month. Resilience 1220, that one is fixed. Their administrative error and their budget amendment has been fixed. Recovery Works is almost done. Then we have Omni. We're going to do some restructuring today. Denver Recovery Group, we're in the middle of. Monarch doesn't have anything in their budget. Mountain Youth Network, we're talking about today, so that will get fixed. Jeffco Public Health, they were initially going to have a needs assessment presentation today, but we are pushing that back to the June 22nd meeting just from a delay in getting documents from the vendor, making sure that all of the public health directors in the 3 counties have an opportunity to digest a lot of information and translational documents from the needs assessment to what the new scope of work or budget would look like. And so again, that conversation is being postponed. So they have their phase 1 budget happening right now, and then we'll start that phase 2 budget at the end of June. JCMH Soteria Landing is anticipated for a July 1st start date. We're almost done with our red lines. Jeffco Sheriffs has the next agenda item today. Any questions on this? Comment? I'm not seeing any. So initially the Jeffco Sheriff's Biometric Project, and I've included a timeline on this slide for folks. I won't read it to you, but they were notified of congressional funding in January, and so we opted to delay their contract. We were granted an exception from the state to allow a deferment or delayed use of funds pending their congressional award. As of May, they still have not heard about their congressional award, so we are approaching 1 year of deferment. And so we were going to have a conversation today about what to do with next steps, but Jeffco Sheriffs has decided to accept the GROC award, and they are looking at a June 1st start date. We are in final red line revisions in the contract. So there's nothing to do for this award at this time. If they do hear about the congressional award, we will come back to the council with whatever that information is, if and when we get it. Any questions on this award? I'm not seeing any, so we will go ahead and go on. Summit planning is going to be Thursday, October 29th at Red Rocks Community College. We've looked at the policy from the executive committee already. Initial invites went out on May 1st, and those will end at the end of this month. So if you have not yet replied, please RSVP to that. I will review who has RSVP'd against the initial list the first couple days of June, and then take that to the advisory committee on June 4th to make recommendations on filling in some of those spots. People are able to express interest in having additional spots signed to them. So kind of looking through that list. And then we will take our recommendations to the executive committee June 8th to send out the second round of RSVPs for all of July. I will also be bringing in some recommendations for options for catering, swag, printing, kind of budget items at the June 8th meeting so we can get that finalized. Any questions on the summit planning?
Chelsea, I have one. I know the county commissioners love to invite each other to different meetings. And so how strict are you on the invite list you're working from? I just know two of us invited because we're the main and the alternate. And is it okay to invite our third commissioner, or should we put them on the let's see later list? And that would apply to all the counties.
Yeah, that would have to go on the June list. So the second round of invite. I don't think, Carrie, is there anything about having legally that we need to consider if all three commissioners come?
It's something that you and I should talk about offline, Chelsea.
Okay. So yeah, I will get back to you, Sandy, and we will talk at the June 8th meeting on that.
That sounds good. I know different meetings have different flexibility, we'll say, with the open meeting. So let us know. Thanks.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing here, we are looking at, so full transparency, this is an agenda item where I'm asking the Council for Professional Development funding. EUNA is the grant management software that we got back in October, and I have been invited to speak at their annual conference in Austin, September 14th, 15th, and 16th. So I am given a 50% speaker discount on registration. I've prospected lodging for the 3 nights at the conference rate, airfare from Denver to Austin, ground transportation from the airport to the hotel and back. I use the GSA rate for per diem, but if approved, I will work with Kate Newman, the Jeffco County Deputy County Manager, Acting County Manager, on what per diem looks like. So the estimated cost for me to attend this conference is $2,386. This is all about grant making. They do have the agenda up. I can show folks that where it lists my name, and I've already prospected which sessions I want to go to, but I will go ahead and open the floor for discussion.
Dr. Chelsea, this is Leslie. I am very excited to see that you'll be speaking about about our opioid regional experience, Jeffco, Gilpin, Clear Creek, with EUNA, and I think this is terrific. And I think it's a modest amount, right, to pay. So, one, congrats on representing our council at this conference and sharing your knowledge with the group, and fully support it.
Thank you so much.
I'll just add that I totally agree. I know in observing Chelsea, when we're at kind of like publicity, type meetings, like people really know you and they really look up to you. And if they hadn't already, they plan to get a hold of you for a lot of advice and peer support. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Shore-Miller, do you see any hands up? I'm struggling with my phone to see participants.
I do not.
Okay, not seeing any hands up. I agree with my colleagues. I'll make a motion to authorize this expenditure.
This is Leslie. I'll second.
Thank you. We will vote by opposition in the chat. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I think this ties in really well with the National Opioid Settlement Conference in October, the national conference, or the state conference in October, the national conference next month. I think we got a nice theme there. Next agenda item is Mountain Youth Network budget amendment. So Mountain Youth Network was awarded the EPIC grant earlier this year. The budget amendment ensures that there's no duplication of funding. EPIC additionally proposes stricter use rules leading to the GROC budget, providing more flexibility to achieve the intended outcomes. In the email that was sent last week and then bumped up about 12 o'clock today, I did include the Excel budget template of their original approved budget, their revised GROC budget, and then their EPIC award budget. And I did go line by line item to compare the two budgets, and I do not see any cause for concern. In the meeting materials packet, the grantee provided a narrative of the two awards and how they complement each other. I additionally provided a narrative of including, I did write like what the file names were for each budget for folks to look at. I don't believe the program itself has changed. I think that has remained the same. I think the revised budget reflects fiscally responsible cost sharing across the two funding sources, supporting the same youth prevention model. GROC funds are now positioned to support program expansion, while EPIC supports core operations. I did request 2 adjustments be made. I did ask them to include funding for van wraps to include the GROC branding. This will increase the visibility of opioid settlement funding in the community to let folks know how opioid dollars are being used. It also aligns with the Gilpin County Parks and Rec van and the Advocates for Recovery and Monarch van decals. And then Jeffco Public Health will also include the GROC branding on their van and retro design. So anyone who gets a van that GROC pays for, they also have to get a GROC logo decal on the van. So again, that way people know where our dollars are being used. They can't turn around and sell the van on Facebook Marketplace because it has our logo on it. Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Hi, could you just focus on the highlighted box that you did? It didn't seem to me, maybe I was misreading it, that it didn't follow line by line, but it was more of an insert of total program costs on the spreadsheet. Can you just tell us, like, and then it has a total. What is that really showing us?
Are you looking at the UNA budget?
No, I was looking at the spreadsheet. Let's see.
There's 3 spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's the Mountain Youth Network, and it's on the budget template.
So the
where you put it in the highlighted area.
I'm sorry. Is it the MYN itemized budget, the UNA GROC Exhibit E budget, or the final split
It's
budget?
it's the itemized budget, and it's the first page, which is budget template. You'll just see the yellow highlighted area.
Oh,
because like it shows personnel. Yeah, it's so much different in number. Can you just, is that just a overall summary that's popped in there?
That was an internal note when we were transferring the budget into EUNA. You have to type in basically a category total before you can type in the individual line items. So their personnel total was $269,213. And I got that from H15, H16, H17, H18, and H19. And those are individual line items in their UNA budget.
So it's not meant to be read across. It's just a summary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more internal kind of note of category totals.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Go back to sharing. And then I also asked for a contract term alignment. So the contract start date is proposed to shift from November 1st, 2025 to June 1st of 2026. They have not yet expensed this budget. So I think we can safely do that. And then they would have essentially a no cost, no additional cost contract extension, extending the term to December 31st, 2028. That's roughly a 30-month total. And we should have done this with like Chat and Advocates for Recovery when we renewed them to get their contracts aligned to that calendar year. But this allows alignment with the GROC calendar year funding structure and improve consistency in reporting and contract management. Future contract alignment. So Advocates for Recovery and Denver Recovery Group are up for renewals through June and July with discussion from this group in August. And they will also be having, I think it's a 15-month and a 17-month contract because I'm trying to align them to the calendar year. So those are things that I had specifically asked for. And then this breaks down the budget categories. Personnel costs were redistributed. EPIC supports core staffing. GROC funds a second coordinator for expanded program capacity. They've created a program position for weekend programming. They have the support roles were partially shift to EPIC, reducing GROC allocation while maintaining service levels. Program supplies and activities, participant support costs, mileage, technology, professional development, and then administrative costs were recalculated proportionately based on the revised direct cost totals. And again, I think it's very clear. I spent an hour with each line item in both budgets that EPIC funds core programming and GROC supports expanded capacity. Commissioner Hollingsworth, is this a new hand or old hand?
It's an old hand, sorry.
Okay. Floor is open for discussion. The goal here is a motion to approve the revised budget. No, again, I'm going to note the contract shift start date and end date. And the Clear Creek voting members, Carrie, they can talk, they just can't vote.
Yep.
Okay.
And anybody can make a motion. Doesn't have to be the three of us.
This is Janie. I will motion to approve the budget and contract changes.
Thank you.
This is Tori. I'll second.
Thank you. We will vote by opposition in the chat. All right, thank you so much. I will continue working with Mountain Youth Network to get their contract revised and their budget updated in UNA. Okay, going into Jeffco Public Health, I've mentioned this a couple times now. They had a conditional award milestone presentation that was slated for today, but I made the decision to postpone that so that the public health directors can meet again this week. We could bring our recommendations, comments, and concerns into the executive committee on June 8th. And then we will have the needs assessment presentation with the revised scope of work and budget on June 22nd. They did not actually put through a budget amendment for today, so nothing is changing for phase 1. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Omni for their first program evaluation report.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be here with you all. My name's Sean Reed. I'm a senior research manager at Omni Institute. Have my partner in crime here today, Rhiannon Straight, who's our fearless project lead. I'm the evaluation lead for the partners that are on this call. Thank you for all the setup. Before I dive into the eval, I'll give everyone a little bit of a reminder of kind of how we got to this point. So we started our work with GROC last November, and we did a pretty extensive round of outreach to all of the funded partners, all 13 of them, where we held individual meetings with them to better understand their programming and then the metrics that they currently are tracking or able to track. From there, we took what was in their contract, identified additional metrics, and worked with them to really build the foundation for that reporting. It's been a long road to get there. You all are funding a lot of really great work, but we're excited to share that at the start of the year, we have everything built out for everyone. So currently, all organizations, barring Jeffco Sheriffs and Lakewood PD, as they were a little bit later starting, have reported data to us. And so we're excited today to share with you all some of the data from 3 of our organizations. Let me just get the right screen pulled up. Here we go. Can everyone see that okay?
We can see it great, Sean.
Looking good.
Wonderful. Thank you. So the 3 organizations we'll be talking about today are Advocates for Recovery Colorado, the Gilpin County Sheriff's Office, and Resilience 1220. Starting first with Advocates for Recovery Colorado.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah.
Sorry for ruining your flow here, but before you dig in, I think it might be helpful to give folks a little bit of context as to why we're only covering a few organizations at a time. You can explain that really succinctly, but I'm happy to do it if you can't.
Sure, happy to. Thank you for flagging that.
Yeah,
so as I mentioned, you all are funding 13 excellent programs, and it's a lot of data. If we were to pull all of that and throw all of that information at you all at one time, it would be difficult to track everything. So rather what we've agreed with on Dr. Chelsea is each quarter doing sort of a snapshot of each of the organizations, kind of showcasing their key indicators. I think it was back in February, Rhiannon shared with the council the kind of overarching eval plan. So what we've done is we've taken select organizations out of there that have given us 2 quarters worth of data so far, just so that we can show you some trends over time, and we'll be presenting to you the key metrics out of that evaluation plan. Thank you for flagging that, Rhiannon. So to dive in for Advocates for Recovery Colorado, we'll kind of start large and we'll filter down on these. For total clients served between quarters 1 and quarter 2, they've served 49 individuals. And now what we're reporting here is a mixture of individuals who have received peer recovery services, as well as those who have received transportation services. So quite an increase here. In quarter 1, 6 individuals received services, and in quarter 2, 43 were served. Now, breaking that down to specifically peer support, the majority of these individuals were individuals who received peer support services. So for quarter 1, those who received services were entirely through peer support, and then a substantial portion of them were receiving peer support in quarter 2. Now, for their recovery meetings, which we know are another key component of what they were funded, between these 2 quarters, Advocates has held a total of 33 recovery meetings. This has increased greatly again between quarter 1 and 2, where Q1 it was 9, and in Q2 that shifted up to 24, so almost 3-fold. Of participants in those, 95 individuals attended the recovery meetings. This again has grown about a factor of 3 to 71 individuals receiving these services in Q2. As for where these are being held, the majority of services have been held in Clear Creek, with 79% or almost 80% of the services being held there, and 21% being held in Jefferson County. Advocates has shared with us that they have not yet held any recovery meetings in Gilpin, as they've been unable to secure a location to hold these meetings there, but they have been providing transportation to individuals from Clear Creek, or from Gilpin into Clear Creek for those meetings. As for transportation themselves, I'll have a little bit of an update on a couple slides from now, but they shared that the transportation program has been a little bit slow to grow. There were no transportations that took place in Q1, but in Q2, there were 6 individuals who received transportation. And across all of those, there were 23 individuals. So this shows that each individual is accessing about 4 rides per quarter, which is actually a really good sign of reuse for services. Now, as for miles driven, there were 731 miles driven cumulatively over the first half of the year. The 70 miles they did want to note for Q1 was for them moving the van to the location where they were going to have the most access for transportation or be to the most folks. And then the 661 miles have been the miles driven across those 23 rides for those 6 individuals. As for some of their additional metrics, so other things they were funded to do, including things like the Lockstone kit distribution, this has stayed relatively stable. They've distributed 17 kits in Q1 and 17 in Q2, but there's been a lot of growth in individuals attending the prevention trainings. There's only 1 individual in Q1, and that's grown to 14 individuals in Q2, which is a great turnout. And over the course of the first half of the year, 9 individuals have received training to become a peer coach. Which, as we all know, the more peers, the better in a community.
Hey, Sean, can I just say something? We have gotten, we did have a meeting with our representative, Lindsay. We held a small meeting, and we have something planned for upcoming events. Also, I think she has a place to have meetings at the Health and Human Service Office for individual peer recovery. So it is getting underway a little bit up in Gilpin here.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that update in that context. We look forward to seeing that data in Q3. As for the demographics, this is one thing that we want to note, as you'll see across all of the organizations through the entirety of the evaluation, that there will be a decent proportion of individuals whose gender, age, ethnicity, race will be reported as don't know or didn't answer. That's not to say that there was any sort of like mistracking on the part of the partners or anything like that. But in following equitable evaluation practices, we do not force individuals to respond to demographic questions. It's always opt-in. And each of the partners, we worked with them to determine what demographics they would be able to track, as some organizations have dedicated intake forms or processes, whereas other ones, you can think about like a peer, or not a peer, co-responder model as not necessarily having an intake process. And so it would be asking individuals what their age is and things like that. So that might just skew the way some of these data look a little bit. But when it comes to AFRC and the data they reported over Q1 and Q2, of those individuals that received services, 66% identified as white and 34% did not provide their race. As for the sex of the individuals who are participating, it's about even split, with slightly more female at 53% and 47% identifying as male. As for success stories and barriers, we track these from each of the funded partners. Some successes over this period when it comes to training. The Recovery Ambassador Training in Gilpin had 14 attendees, all of who gave great feedback. The Lakewood All Recovery meeting is gaining attendees every week. And then AFRC wanted to share their increased community connections. Through this quote, the connections we've made at Jefferson County Open House have already led to increased engagement from the community and an increase in participants. Connecting with probation has also increased the referrals they're receiving within the community. So showing the importance of those community connections. As for transportation, AFRC did share that the program is not fully being utilized yet. It's been a little bit slower on the uptake, but the GROC team has been doing a lot of outreach with community partners to raise awareness of the program, and AFRC is connected with sober living houses in the area to offer rides to residents for recovery-related needs. As for the Gilpin County participant numbers, their Gilpin County coach has been hitting the street hard and showing up at just about every community event to increase awareness of AFRC's presence in Gilpin. So more data from them to come in the upcoming quarters. As for Gilpin Sheriff co-response, for their 2 quarters, each quarter they had a co-response for 7 individuals. The majority of these individuals are being taken directly to the hospital. For 3 of those individuals, it was deemed that no action was needed to be taken. So the officer met with them, and then the situation was resolved at the scene without removal of the individual to another location. Now, to provide some updates on progress, we know that that's been a point of conversation. We want to give an update on the major things that are listed in their contract. So establishing protocols with Jefferson County Mental Health. Gilpin County Sheriff's Office reports working on an MOU with new staff members at Jefferson County Mental Health. They did report that there's been a challenge in identifying the correct people at JCMH, as there has been some fluctuations in their staffing there. They're also working on a new MOU for internally, but all patrol deputies have been trained and they're working on training all of the jail staff. They've also reported that there's been more calls logged into their CAD system, as you saw here, so they're better able to get a sense of their data and who's being served. And then as they're gathering more data, they're working with us to identify more reportable metrics that could be shared out. Lastly, for Resilience 1220, we'll cover first the number of individuals served. So this is inclusive of both individual and group therapy. And we can see some pretty good growth here. There's a total of 393 individuals, so almost 400 that received services in the first half of the year. This number did grow by roughly 30 between Q1 and Q2. The majority of these individuals were in Jefferson County. You can see that that's their largest population, followed by Clear Creek, Gilpin, and then 5 who did not report any county that they resided in. As for group therapy, there's been a total of 24 group therapy sessions, of which we see that the number of youth attending these is growing. This is unique youth that we're reporting here, just for clarity, but we can get the aggregate numbers if that would be of interest to the council. But in Q1, 9 were held, and then 15 were held in Q2, so a growth of about 6. And then in Q1, there was only 5 unique youth that participated, and now we're seeing 41 in Q2. As for the therapy sessions held, there were a little over 1,100 individual therapy sessions held. This did decrease between Q1 and Q2. Q1, there were 609, and this dropped to 529. But the number of youth receiving individual therapy has remained stable, only a difference of about 9 cases there. This is another thing that we wanted to highlight. For the group-based services, youth are not required to provide demographics. It's also not required for their descriptors and their intakes. But when we look at those that did provide demographics, about a third of the individuals receiving services were female and 22% is male. The largest age group was age 12 to 13. Over half of the clients served by them identified as white. And then 8% did not identify as Hispanic or Latino. When it comes to their success stories, looking at the peer leadership campaigns, which is another component of their contract, 560 students were reached with the 2 peer leadership programs, which is excellent outreach. They are reaching the demand for individual therapy. They're continuing to reach the high demand in Jefferson County and are seeing an increase in youth reaching out from Gilpin County due to outreach that they've done at the middle and high school and partnership with the Eagles After School program. As for community events, they held their first social event for Clear Creek in Jefferson County during the November break, and they're excited for more social event opportunities that we'll share in the future. As for their barriers, they have been struggling to hold a Teen Connection event in Jefferson County. They did have one, but it was rescheduled to Q2 due to a conflicting event on the same evening. They do also have youth opt in to participate in pre and post surveys to help them better understand the impact of the services they're offering. We are tracking those numbers and have been in communication with R1220 as youth are not largely opting into those surveys. As for the peer leadership program at Evergreen High School, they did have reduced participation due to seniors preparing for graduation, and so they're working on rebuilding the program for this upcoming fall. And they have a peer leadership program with Jefferson Middle School, which has taken time to get off the ground, but officially kicked off in Q2. And that is everything that I had. I know that was a lot of data that I just threw at everyone, but does anyone have any questions?
Leslie, I just had a really quick follow-up question about the transportation for Advocates for Recovery. The point made a little bit earlier that Advos has mentioned that transportation is not fully utilized. Is the barrier then, is the biggest barrier, to the best of our knowledge, the lack of awareness? And I heard you say that they're hitting the ground running in terms of really making sure folks are aware that transportation exists. I know that in the past, we have said that that's certainly a huge need. Is there any more detail that we have in terms of the transportation piece?
Yeah, so we do have a little bit of context. This is something that we've talked about with AFRC, just getting clarification. And what they've shared is largely that awareness issue. And so that's where they're really having folks more connected. They're really sharing information out through their peer network and connecting with these local organizations. That was something that really started to take off after Q1. And I think we can see in that jump up to from 0 to 23 rides, they are starting to get some traction through that outreach. We should have Q3 data from them, I believe, in 2 months from now, which will have a little bit more insight into that.
That's great. I appreciate it. And then I just had a quick question about the jump in youth being served by Resilience 1220 from Q1 to Q2. The number of youth attending or involved increased from 6 to 41, which I think is terrific. Do we know what that reflects?
You know, I don't know. That wasn't a part of like their qualitative descriptions. Oh, Dr. Chelsea, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was when we approved the budget amendment for them to increase their services.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you for that context. Dr. Chelsea nailed it.
Love to see a budget increase immediately result in additional people served. That's all. Sorry for the interruption.
We love you. You said what I was thinking. Thank you.
Hopefully that's the case. I'm going to interject too. I think with transportation, it's always tricky. You know, in my decades of social services work, that's always identified as a high need, but then the usage is always lower. And I think that with the population, there's an element of, yeah, I'll go if I get a ride. But then in the moment, life happens, or they have reservations, like their shyness or their just reluctance to go into a group could come into play with certain individuals. So I think it's great that we continue to offer it, and I anticipate it'll grow over time as people peer-to-peer here, you know, it's safe, come along. So I think there's all those considerations with transportation.
Yeah, and I would echo that too. Really every region that we're involved in evaluation for, they're funding some sort of transportation program. And it does just take time for that traction. It's really the word of mouth. When folks get to the services, they've used the transportation, they start to share that, and then suddenly you start to see these booms down the road.
So on the transportation piece, I wanted to ask, when transportation is required, how does AFRC's program work? I know they purchased a van, and I assume it's someone on their team that is doing the driving, and hopefully not someone dedicated solely to driving. Is that correct? Do you understand the program well enough to answer that question?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have 5 program staff. 2 of them are split, so one is like a 0.6 and one is like a 0.4. And then they have, I think, 2 people approved to do driving who split their time across multiple awards.
Okay.
In multiple regions, and they just kind of like schedule out based on that. So it's not one individual that is solely the driver.
Maybe another sort of follow-up, because thank you, that's really helpful. And knowing that they're doing this in more regions, another helpful follow-up would just be, how can they help us measure the efficiency of specifically the transportation investment? The reason I ask is because it's really important in Clear Creek. I don't think we'll ever have the kind of density to justify like someone on staff ready for Clear Creek. And so there are other models out there that I've become aware of since we made this award, basically around giving people stipends and sending Uber drivers. And I'm curious, as we evaluate this program and this component of the program moving forward, that's the option, the alternative I'd love to evaluate this against.
Yeah, some things with that. So I think this conversation needs to happen sooner rather than later because they do only have a 1-year contract. So they are up for a 1 or 2-year contract renewal. Their application opens up June 1st, closes July 31st. The full council will be engaged in scoring the first 2 weeks of August, and then the whole council will engage in group discussion. Do we want to do a 1-year, a 2-year, a no award? And so that is definitely a conversation of, do we want them to change their model, better describe their model? I do a lot of back and forth with Sean and Rhiannon compared to like invoicing and personal mileage. Maybe we take away personal mileage because we just expect them to use this car for that internal driving that we purchase. Some things to think about with Uber that other regions experience issues with is there is not always an Uber driver, especially in bad weather or odd hours, where advocates can provide that supplemental. But I do think we need to think about, if we're buying a vehicle, are we also reimbursing mileage for personal vehicles or for that car? So this actually just came up in the Gilpin Parks and Rec award that I'm invoicing. Is we bought them a van, but we also approved 63 cents a mile for the van. To me, I don't know why we're paying mileage on a vehicle that we bought. Amber thinks that's justified, and I'm going to defer to her expertise. Maybe I just don't understand how reimbursement works very well. With that, and then with Advocates for Recovery, we are reimbursing them mileage for personal vehicle use that is in the thousands of dollars. So like when they drive from the Clear Creek office to the Jeffco office to their Westminster office, which is not in Region 10, or they drive to Recovery Works to host a meeting in their personal vehicle, we're paying for that. But we also bought them a car that might be being underutilized. So these are all things I think we need to think about.
Chelsea, when might we add that in as a discussion? Because I think there are many pros and cons, and I'll just say what you said. Like, we don't really have Uber drivers in Gilpin. Individuals have tried it. They haven't had enough business. It costs them more to have their vehicle than it did for any money they were making. And I think there's something to be said about the participants developing a relationship with a consistent driver, because that's kind of part of the program too. It might be what keeps them going. So lots of things to consider.
Yeah, I should be able to fit this in the June 8th executive committee meeting, and I don't think this is a black and white issue. I don't think that we can just come up with a policy for this, but I would like to include a stance, kind of like our stance on capital, on like vehicle reimbursement and transportation models. Maybe we add a conditional question on the application where, if they are including a transportation component, that we populate a question to ask them to explain this a little bit more in the RFA materials. So just like some considerations for discussion. I think that will also help folks in the review process when they're looking at budgets, if we have just kind of like a list of considerations.
Just jumping in to add mostly noise at this point. I think it would be really beneficial to have Sean join me as an Omni staffer for that executive committee meeting conversation, just to work through like what is and isn't feasible from an evaluation standpoint. And then the other thing that I wanted to add, we dug in a little bit more to what AFRC was using the mileage reimbursement for their staff for, because we were also trying to understand if like transportation services were being duplicated or kind of how they were using the personal mileage reimbursement. And for those of us who've been around for a really long time, when this program kind of first was in its infancy, there was a lot of talk around making sure that there were peers within each county. And so those reimbursement miles are to make sure that they have representatives present at community events across counties. So people are often bopping from one county to another county to attend one meeting, to make it to another meeting, but they are not ever transporting people, like individuals seeking services, in their vehicles. So it's really just the mileage it takes to transition across the region for multiple different staffers.
And I do want to clarify, this is a record, because this is a recording, is that I want to thank Advocates for Recovery for allowing us to use them as our example organization. I echoed this in the grantee learning forum last week, is as kind of one of those first round grantees, we are learning a lot from your award. So it's not that we're trying to nitpick you individually. That's just part of the consequence of being a first awardee and building the plane while flying it. So I really think not only Advocates for Recovery, but all of our first two cohort grantees allowing us to learn and collaborate with them on these reflections for future awards.
You completely agree, and I appreciate the context around the transportation. I look forward to knowing that we'll, have some more information as we move into our next round, which I think we'll probably still need recovery services in one way or another here. Not to prejudice any potential applications here, but looking into how to best provide transportation is important. And there are lessons to be learned from the state of Colorado on this one. I'll just leave it at that. I wanted to ask a question about the Gilpin Sheriff Co-Responder Program. I see in Q1 and in Q2, we have 7 each for a total of 14 responses. Can you start by reminding me what that means? Is that was 14 times that a computer we purchased was used to connect someone who had a law enforcement contact with a social worker or someone that's non-law enforcement virtually. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So these 7 would be the deputy received the call, and then they used the software on the computer to connect the individual. And in these cases, they were connected to the hospital 11 times, and then 3 times there was no further action taken. There was no action deemed as needed to be taken. I will note these are the only response options that are on the screen because those are the only ones that were more than 0. The intent is that as their partnership with Jefferson County Mental Health comes online, then that would start to fill in too. It's not to say that someone wouldn't ever be taken to the hospital, but they may have more options outside of that.
Yeah, understand the lack of locations to take people who are in crisis. And then no action taken. I just want to make sure my co-responder team sort of thinks differently about when we contact one and then they don't end up in the hospital or in jail. We sort of call that a win. Are those 3 things wins?
Yeah, that would be considered a situation where it wasn't deemed the individual was needed to be taken to a hospital or arrested.
Okay. So I just, not trying to edit this on the fly. The report is what it is, but I think a reframe could be helpful there. Those are 3 people that could have ended up in jail or in the hospital and they didn't, and it's because of this program, is my take.
Yeah, certainly.
George.
That's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, Sean, I didn't mean to run over you. I just wanted to make sure I understood. When you say reframe, you mean like let's label that differently so we perceive that as like no action taken being a positive, not like a we blew them off and walked away.
Right, no action taken.
Yeah,
Like, were
okay.
they connected to a social worker? Did that social worker resolve their situation on scene? Was it resolved on scene? Because that's an action, right? And that's actually a great action. So, and maybe the answer is wrong, but I just wanted to make sure because anyway. And then
That's
some
helpful,
frame of
George. Thank you.
reference would be helpful here just to understand. I think, especially in a region, and this is a general feedback on the whole report. in a region with one county that has like 1,000 times the population of the other two, some frame of reference is helpful. And so like, how does this look as a percentage of calls? How many calls are coming? How many are we confident this captured all the calls that could have possibly been used here? If not, what were the obstacles? And those are the questions about the co-response. But if you looked at that lens, like on the AFRC metrics too, you might see opportunity to add some context. Like if I was a Jefferson County Commissioner, I'd be asking a lot of questions about why 80% of the recovery meetings were in a county with a population of 10,000 and not in the county with a population of 550, for example.
Yeah, that's a great point. We can certainly, I think when it comes to that, we would recommend using some sort of rate measure, whether that's a rate per 10,000 or a rate per 100,000. We'd have to explore it. We would want to report those alongside the actual counts too, just since these low population areas, but we're more than happy to include that on future slides. I think that's a great point.
I'm just going to jump in and just say, I know that Chelsea's been trying to work with the co-response entities and get them discussing how they are tracking, what they are tracking, and try to get a little more continuity between them, because we all know that the actual goal and definition of co-response is when law enforcement is connecting with someone a professional with mental health or substance abuse expertise. So until the Jefferson Center is in place, I'm not sure if our officers have had the opportunity to do that exact definition. And I know that Under Sheriff Demo is on, but I also want to say, I know Chelsea's really been trying to work between the three entities to try to get some continuity through the region about reporting.
Yeah, and when it comes to these metrics, I will say across the three co-response programs, we're tracking the same, I would say, base metrics, and then there is some variability between them, I would say mainly in response options, just because their programs look a little bit different in the way that they do outreach and follow-up. But where possible, we have maintained continuity between them to tie better back into that evaluation plan that Rhiannon had shared earlier on.
The other thing that might really scratch the itch that you're talking about, George, is the dashboard that is in the process of being built out. And so right now you're getting 3 organizations without the context of the whole strategic plan, the other gaps that are being filled, the other counties that might be being addressed differently by a different program who also does recovery, right? Like we're kind of looking at a really zoomed in version. And this dashboard that Omni is building, which fall release date, you will be able to filter in certain ways to see like the number of people served by county across priority area, or the number of people who've received transportation using GROC funds as a whole, not limited to a county. So we'll be able to kind of filter in a unique way that gives you a little bit more context around the story as a whole. And I think every time we do one of these presentations, the more comments and questions and interest that we get from you all, the better we can refine this dashboard so that it shows the things that you need, and so that we can put little caveats in like narrative form on your dashboard that tell a little bit more contextual information than the data is able to tell in and of itself. So as you all know, you've heard me say this, you've heard Dr. Chelsea say this, like this is just such a complex system at play. And so having a one-stop shop where you can go see all of the moving parts and how they roll up into a bigger data picture, I think will be really helpful and better satisfying some of the questions that have come up from today's presentation alone.
Thank you. And I'm not trying to report dissatisfaction. I'm really, really excited to see this and all of that stuff. So thanks to everybody.
Yeah, I really appreciate your questions. Any questions from anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you all for giving part of your meeting to hear this. We're excited to share an update on more orgs in just a couple months.
And that does conclude our meeting for today. We have our next meeting is going to be our advisory meeting that is virtual on Thursday, June 4th from 11 to 12. Then we have our executive committee meeting virtually on Monday, June 8th. And our full council meeting on June 22nd is going to be hybrid in Clear Creek with our JCPH needs assessment presentation and phase 2 conditional funding decision. So I will get meeting materials out that it looks like it's June 1st, easy date to remember. And that will include the summit invite list, the RSVPs and the recommended names to fill in the spaces. And then our public health directors are meeting on the Wednesday, the 27th at 1 o'clock to finish our discussion around the needs assessment and the translation documents. And we will bring a recommendation to the executive committee on June 8th. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.